episode 136 with Khaled Tash. Khaled is the VP of Marketing at Saudi Airlines, have been our partners for over a year now. So what you're looking at here are three retired planes that were transported from Jeddah to Riyadh, which is about 1,000 kilometers, 650 miles. One of the planes was turned into an authentic Saudi-style restaurant, which is where we shot. The two other planes had other purposes, which Khaled will go into in the episode. To say that this episode was unique is really underselling it. We go into the buzz that was created online and just transporting those planes and many, many other subjects. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Did you anticipate that the buzz would be as big as it was, where people were talking about it maybe more than the football games?
It was incredible. I think the fact that that journey took so much celebration by the people deserves to, from our side, I think the people deserve the credit for this. We did get delays. That's a very funny story. We did get delays on the way. So we were supposed to transport them, I think, in 7 days. It took 11 or 12. Because, believe it or not, in some villages along the way, the village would actually stop the road and say, you have to come down and have lunch with us or have dinner with us. And have the guys were telling me in one of the villages, they were expecting that they kind of the convoy would arrive at night, so they prepared dinner, but then they got delayed. By the time they arrived, they said, it's okay, you're gonna sleep here, you're gonna have breakfast with us, and then we will let you leave. So that's how engaged the people were.
Thank you so much for coming on and doing this. I know we've been wanting to do this for a while. Thank you for also being very laid back with the questions that I said I want to send your way. You said nothing's off limits. Let's have a coffee shop conversation. And I'm pretty sure that's going to be exactly the direction that we're going to go in today. So I really appreciate your time.
Better late than never.
Better late than never. That's a motto that I use a lot in my life.
We're moving beyond, using our past to propel, sharing our culture, nature, heritage, hospitality, progress with the rest of the world. Welcome to our future. Welcome to Saudia. Built on big ideas and a passion for change, inspired by heritage and progress, made by dreams and determination. We exemplify it all. Come find your place in it, with us. Our future starts now. Saudia. This is how we fly.
This is a story, actually, when you pause to think about these three planes. They could have easily been transported from Jeddah to here in trucks that nobody would have known about. Mm-hmm. They could have been found in maybe the scrap yards of Riyadh. Mm-hmm. They could have come in a lot more discreet way. And I'm not just saying this because you're here. I don't know who takes credit for this. Maybe you can tell me who does. I don't think there has been a bigger buzz on Twitter, X, that I've ever seen than these three planes that went from Jeddah to Riyadh via the townships of Saudi Arabia. Did you anticipate that the buzz would be as big as it was, where people were talking about it maybe more than the football games?
So no one anticipated that. But let me kind of break that down a little bit. So first of all, was it the biggest buzz creation marketing stunt of all time? I think yes, and by far the numbers prove it. The amount of social media engagement that we have seen was incredible. Something that we have not seen in our careers with Saudi or with anyone else. The credit, I think, goes to the Saudi people. No one deserves to be kind of celebrated, recognized more than the Saudi people. I'll tell you an insider story, and I haven't told this to anyone before, but the planes were supposed to be they were supposed to start moving on a Friday, and I think the time was 5 p.m. that they would be leaving Jeddah airport on their way to Riyadh. It was a Friday, so after Friday prayer, I get a call from our partner in Sila, and he's like, Khaled, we're sending a few photographers and videographers. Please do the same. We want to make sure that we document the journey as much as we can. So if something happens with our photographers, it's a long journey. It's going to be a week or 10 days. So let's make sure that we get enough footage. We sleep, we wake up, and everyone is taking pictures. Everyone is sending us videos. Everyone, and to the extent that we probably by then could have just told our photographers and videographers to just
Go
go
home.
home. It was incredible. So the celebration, but I think it's also a story of how these planes were. You were saying they could have been transported in a more discreet way. They could have been. There could have been other ways of doing this. Usually, for planes to be reassembled somewhere else for entertainment purposes, and the idea of using planes as an F&B venue, a restaurant, or some kind of an entertainment facility is not new. There isn't anything of this scale in the world, so that's something that we are very proud of. But something that we are even more proud of is that this is the first time that a proper dismantling and reassembly of a big aircraft like this happens outside of the Boeing facility. Our teams, engineering teams in Jeddah, did an amazing job. They did things that did not have manuals. Boeing was asking, "Why do you want to do it to this?" Because the easiest way would have been to cut it into 10 pieces, let's say, put it on trucks, come here, and then put it back together. But that would not look as authentic as it does today. Look at the cabin; it's almost like it's untouched. So that was amazing. The timing was a challenge. I remember this idea of creating the Boulevard runway with this kind of concept was initially discussed in the first week of January of 2024.
A year ago exactly.
A year ago exactly, in London. So when we initiated this project, there's a lot of, this is our Saudi almost kind of brand right now of doing the impossible and doing it very quickly, etc. But no one had kind of the confidence to say, yes, we can deliver this by Riyadh season, which is October, November, December. So dismantling the planes was supposed to take, I think, 90 days. The Saudi Technic team did it in 60. Assembling it when it arrived here was supposed to take I believe 60 days. They did it in 45. So everyone was really doing. We did get delays. That's a very funny story. We did get delays on the way. So we were supposed to transport them, I think, in 7 days. It took 11 or 12 because, believe it or not, in some villages along the way, the village would actually stop the road and say, you have to come down and have lunch with us or have dinner with us and have the guys were telling me in one of the villages they were expecting that the kind of the convoy would arrive at night, so they prepared dinner, but then they got delayed. By the time they arrived, they said, "It's okay, you're gonna sleep here, you're gonna have breakfast with us, and then we will let you leave." So that's how engaged the people were. It was incredible. I think the fact that that journey took so much celebration by the people. I think the people deserve the credit for this. But I have to say, a lot of the credit also goes to His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh and his vision, his support for this to make it happen, the crazy ideas that were coming up, and how do let's not just do a normal restaurant, let's do a Saudi restaurant, let's get one of the best burger places to come and open here. So a lot of credit also to His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh and his team in the General Entertainment Authority, in Riyadh Season, in Sila. Big thanks to them for making this dream come true. It's not a normal project, and I don't think we as an airline team could have done this alone. It requires a lot more kind of ecosystem synergies and collaborations to make something as big as this. But it was big. It was the biggest marketing campaign for Saudi probably in its history.
Yeah, great marketing stunt, if you want to call it that. That's amazing. I mean, you guys came with the planes and maybe an appetite for a bit of marketing, and they came with the execution know-how and seasoning, and it was the perfect match. I heard some whispers from some of your team members that it was Abu Nasser Turki Al Sheikh's idea to create a restaurant out of this plane. Is that something that you can confirm?
Oh yes, the entire vision was from him, and honestly, a lot of the details on what to do, even and leaders who have not only the vision but the kind of the passion to work with the team, even on some of the details, makes a lot of difference. Yeah. I was just telling you before we start that we were planned to inaugurate the Boulevard runway on December 15th, and a few days before, and we were preparing everything, and a few days before that day, we get a call and they say, no, we wanna postpone it for 3-4 days. And I thought immediately when I heard that, I thought maybe there's something in the execution that is not working. Maybe there's a power issue. Maybe there's a logistical issue. But then I get a call from them and they say, no, because His Excellency has a big boxing event and he wants to promote it, and he's doing a press conference. So he said, what better way to launch Boulevard Runway than to bring the international media with the boxers to witness the opening of this. And you saw how that, I mean, world champions coming in the plane and taking pictures from the cockpit and going down to the press conference from the airplane. So it's a lot of these details. He's amongst a lot of other things, I'm a marketeer, so I think of him as a marketing genius, honestly.
Absolutely. It's almost like, he's working on providing something that he didn't have when he was at the age of the people who he's providing it for today. Mm-hmm. Like if he was around when you and I were 10 years old, we would have had a more entertaining childhood, I would say.
Better late than never.
Better late than never.
As I said, I think a lot of things work out for the best. Whenever I go to Al Ula, I say, the first time I went to Al Ula,
I love it.
Was in 2021, and I was invited with some friends, and they wanted us to do some kind of a marketing workshop on how to promote Al Ula. And one of the guys who was with us on the trip, he's a consultant now, but he used to work with us in one of my previous careers 20 years ago in Jeddah. And you know how Westerners back in the 90s, they used to go places that us as Saudis would not go to.
Yeah.
So they would go camping and Luj and doing things that we usually wouldn't do. And he was like, Khaled, how come you never told me about this place? I mean, I was here, I was with you guys. I was living in Saudi Arabia 20 years ago. I never knew that this is, and it's I mean, I could have drove from Jeddah and came here and see all this history, and I told him I didn't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It was like and it's so true, and I think
We didn't know.
we didn't know, and I wonder whether if we knew, did we back then have the mindset and the determination and the vision and the leadership and the system that would have allowed it to be what it is today? Maybe we're lucky that a lot of things were untapped and undiscovered in Saudi Arabia, Al-Ula, Dir'iyya, Red Sea, that they were kept for the right time to come for us to celebrate them and bring them out to the world and bring them out to ourselves, first of all.
Interesting perspective. I never thought of it that way. And the sheer volume of aircrafts arriving in Al-Ula today is unfathomable. If I'm not mistaken, there are international flights that Saudia provide from Al-Ula to Paris?
To Paris, seasonal flights. There are flights that are coming in other than Saudi
From the Gulf.
But also let's remember that it's not only because I hear this a lot mostly from Saudi colleagues who say, why don't you support Saudi tourism in a better way by putting more direct flights from all over the world to Al-Ula, to Red Sea, to there are a lot of places. I don't know if have you been to, for example, to the islands in Greece?
Yes, but not via Saudia.
But most of them,
To Athens and then...
yeah. Even when you come from Europe, even when you come from the States, so the connectivity is important. It's not necessarily about direct flights. Once the volume comes up to an extent that justifies direct flights.
I hear you on the justification part. You have to be able to justify or warrant opening a route before you do so. But educate me on what comes first. How could you measure demand against whether I put a flight there? Some people might say build it and they would come. Offer that route and demand will come. How do you go about opening new routes? It's very interesting, by the way, and very challenging, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's chicken or the egg, and it's not a one size fits all kind of thinking. So, for example, today we are at an age where aircraft availability is a constraint. We know that the big giants in the industry, Boeing, Airbus, are struggling to keep up with the demand on producing more and more aircraft. So everyone is in need for more aircraft. That's a phase where you need to be very careful in your selection of routes and destinations and frequencies, and maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 years from today, it's going to be a different story where you're going to have an abundance of aircraft available, and so the constraint will not be there. So it's really studying the demand. There's it's an art much more than a science. Chicken or egg, build it and they will come, or kind of increase the flights as the demand comes in. But let's remember, if you look at Red Sea and Ula, I love these places.
Beautiful.
But they're still pretty small in terms of capacity so far. I mean, you talk about few hundreds of rooms available in each. So we still haven't really reached a level where these are established destinations that are open for the world. I joined Saudia in 2021, and I was fortunate enough to come in at a time where a new transformation strategy was being rolled out. And I remember when we were putting the strategy for 2021 up until 2025. 2021 is like yesterday. In 2021, Al-Ula was not open. Red Sea was nothing. It was purely plans on paper.
Yep.
Okay. Diriyah did not have all this kind of development progress that they've had. Riyadh season was just a small activation, maybe. Look where we are today. I mean, we're now in a phase where we want to put our strategy of 25 until 2030, and the input to the strategy is 180 degrees different than where we were in 21. 21, we were talking about an intent for Saudi Arabia to become a tourism, leisure, business, sports kind of destination. Today we talk about reality.
Yeah.
This is happening. Today we talk about what on earth are we going to do to prepare ourselves for Expo 2030, for World Cup 2034. It's incredible. The speed of progress that we are living in is just incredible.
As you know, the green branding is something very close to all of our hearts, especially me, maybe more, and anyone who had their father or mother, for that matter, involved in the airline in the 80s or 90s. My father's study in the house is filled with the 80s, 90s memorabilia. So it's very much in my blood. We shifted back to it after 20 years with the, I want to say blue or purple. I don't know if it's blue or purple and cream.
It's dark blue.
Dark blue.
Mm-hmm.
We shifted back to what many would call the old branding. Some would say old is gold. Some would say it doesn't serve the era that we're in. That was a has-been. What do you say? I'm sure you get this all the time. And why did we go back to the old? Where do you stand on the move? Did we go back to the old, or did we take something out of our flag? Talk to me a little bit about that strategy.
Very controversial, but that's what marketing should do. We need to keep things interesting for people to continue engaging with us. Did we go back? Yes, we certainly went back. Is it about only going back? Absolutely not. This is one of the cases where you want to make sure that the look and feel, the language, the spirit of the brand is as strong of a representation of who you are and where you're going. So the choice of green was probably a first choice that we took, irrespective of whether that green is the same old green or a new one. So the choice of green was very clear for us from the beginning when we started, that we wanted to go back to green as a brand color. Because we are the national carrier, because we carry the name Saudia, we felt that green is a better representation of Saudia. And then as we were working through, and you would imagine, and I think this is something that is worth mentioning and repeating. It's a point that I try to make as much as possible, because a lot of people say, you, as in me or my boss or our team, you changed, you did. Changing or rebranding Saudia, believe me, is a process that has so many stakeholders to the highest level that are involved in this, who need to be convinced, who ask questions, who follow up on analysis, on data, on so it was not a one-man show. It was not a one decision by someone. It was a very well governed process that took us around 3 years to pull off. And we studied, and we came up with options all the way from creating something completely new to going back to and it's the 70s, not the 80s, because actually this emblem that we are today using with a bit of modernization first came to life in 1968. Okay, so it's as old as 1968.
The wings.
Yeah, the wings with the palm tree.
Palm tree.
So the process was, let's look at the entire horizon. Let's work on something completely new, and let's work on as far as going back as is. And we studied, we did research, not only research in Saudi, but in other markets, in the US, in the UK, in Africa, in Asia. I remember getting research results in Japanese and Chinese, and asking the agencies to help me understand it in a better way. So we studied that. We studied young audience, old audience, and it was a clear, the option I would say that we are in, that we have eventually launched, is inspired by the retro, the 70s. But you see the applications, you look at the website, you look at the planes, you look at the way we bring to life that brand. There are a lot of modern touches into it. So it's kind of the middle solution amongst that kind of that scale that we talked about, and we went through a lot of iterations, a lot of discussions, aligning stakeholders, etc. But two more points that I think are worth telling about the rebrand. One is, it's very important to put a brand's story in the context of what's happening in the world around it. Saudia's rebrand came at a time when PIF announced that they will be launching a second national carrier for Saudi Arabia called Riyadh Air. So there is no escape from us thinking not only about what is best for us as Saudia, but what is best for us as Saudia in the context of another airline also launching. Our choice of green from the early days, I think a lot of that decision, rationale and justification was, we didn't want Riyadh Air to go green. Okay. And that's fair. That's the kind of competition that we want. So we wanted to claim green before anyone else does. So and that's, and another aspect that I think became much more clear as we evolved into the branding exercise, and we started getting glimpses and hints of where Riyadh Air is going, and the story of aviation in Saudi Arabia is not a new story that will be starting in 2025. We have the world's biggest new airline startup that is coming up, which is Riyadh Air, and we wish them all the best. But we're also a country that has a lot of heritage and legacy in the aviation business. We've been here for 80 years. We're not newcomers. Mm-hmm. So for Saudia to come up with a new brand, a new logo, a new look and feel, a new set of colors, it's not our story. Our story is, we've been here and we're here to stay. So borrowing assets that can complement that storytelling for Saudi was important. And what's stronger than the brand? Today, if I do a museum or a piece of content that talks about the history of Saudi Airlines, the story will be cohesive, because I'm going to show you stuff from the 70s and from the 80s and those planes, and I'm going to show you today, and it looks similar. it has evolved. It's almost like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Pepsi actually went back to their 70s brand.
They did.
Burger King went back to their 70s brand. The 70s, so on the other side, the 70s was really a design and creativity renaissance. You look at fashion today, a lot of it is inspired by the 70s. You look at cars, you look at almost everything in our lifestyle, pop culture, creativity in the 70s was amazing. If I show this current brand now of Saudia to younger audiences, they would find it more engaging, more appealing than the brand we had in 2022, 23. Because that dark blue, beige, goldish did not talk to Gen Zs and Gen Alphas, but today we have an opportunity with these fresh colors and with these graphics that we're creating, etc., to connect with Gen Zs and millennials in a better way. Final point: we were actually ready to launch the rebrand a year before we actually did, but we stopped it intentionally because we said we're not doing rebranding for the sake of rebranding. We're doing rebranding to signal a new era for Saudi. And if we come to the market with a new logo, colors, fonts, advertising, etc., without substance, without something that has really changed in the service offering, in the product that we are giving, then we probably will get a lot of heat and backlash on this. And you know how in Saudi Arabia specifically, our public is very critical, very cynical, and could be some of the most difficult. And it's a challenge for us in marketing, but it's also a good challenge to have, because we have a very well-educated, high-taste community that they wouldn't accept things easily. So the launch, we delayed it for a year, and we said we want to make sure that we have a new app that is significantly better than the old app. Our online services, our Fursan program, improve the value proposition of the loyalty program, improve our operational efficiency, so make sure that we're flying more on time, and we did a lot of preparations for the brand, and then eventually launched it on September 30th, 2023, when people actually could see that, oh yeah, they changed the logo, they changed the colors, and I noticed the service is getting better. The app is much better. The website is much better. The food is much better. We're flying on time. So that was also very, very important. So it's a lot of context. I think the short answer, going back to is it going back? It is celebrating what is worth celebrating. We have a history that we do not want to forget, and we don't want people to forget. And if we can use that asset for us moving forward, believe me, we are going to use it. We're not going to shy away from it. We have a great history. We have a great legacy, and inshallah it will continue.
Thank you for that answer. When you hear or when you heard of Riyadh Air coming online, was it a case of, oh no, now we have to compete with an airline that wants to compete with the best airlines in the world? Or was your reaction, competition is healthy, a rising tide lifts all boats, this is good for the aviation sector of the country and region? How did you react to the news that here's Riyadh Air and they want to go against the best?
So I think a mix of all. So thinking about it, competition is always good. when competition comes, if I speak as a marketing guy, I immediately see that this is an opportunity for us to do more things. So I'm gonna have an easier job um, getting budgets and approvals, etc., because I know now that my leadership is concerned with the competition from Riyadh Air in one way or another. But let's go back and see how was Riyadh Air introduced to the market. And I remember one of the so what happened is there was a under Vision 2030, there was a national transport and logistics services strategy, from which there was a national aviation strategy. And as a result of the national aviation strategy, Saudi Arabia decided to have this segregation of hub kind of operations between Saudia and a new airline called Riyadh Air. So for the people in Saudia, they already looked at this as an opportunity for us to be more focused, stronger, because we always suffered financially and operationally from having that need to be operating out of different hubs. So we have a hub in Jeddah, we have a hub in Riyadh, we had previously a hub in Dammam, and sometimes in Medina, in Abha, and that adds up a lot of cost and a lot of complexity. So by having a clear strategy that says airlines that work well financially, commercially, operationally, and this is what His Excellency Yasser Mayan said in his early interview when he was announcing Riyadh Air. He said, we looked at the world. Successful airlines are airlines that have a single hub. That's where you build value, you build scale, and hence you can really make this airline work. And we want to follow the same model. So we're gonna let Saudia focus on Jeddah as a hub. We're gonna create another airline in Riyadh to focus on it as a hub. So from that perspective, it's actually good news for Saudia. But yes, I think from another angle, the competition is something that rightfully so should keep us more on our toes. I think today every decision maker in Saudi, whether he's in product, pricing, network, fleet, etc., would have an additional layer of consideration in their decision making that says, okay, but if I do this, how would that compare to Riyadh Air, or what is Riyadh Air going to do, and that's healthier for us to really keep us on our toes moving forward. Another, and here we're talking more of the group and opportunistic kind of perspective, but a very important perspective is a few days ago, Riyadh Air signed with Catrion, which is one of the subsidiaries of Saudia Group, for their catering.
Yes.
A few months ago, they signed with Saudi Ground Services, another subsidiary that we benefit from, and they're probably going to use our maintenance services. They're probably going to use our academy for training purposes. They're probably they're probably going to use our cargo or logistics for services. So I actually look at them as as one of the customers for the group. So if they're gonna help kind of raise the bar and help us expand on our catering business, on our ground services, on our cargo, logistics, training. That's great news for us.
Interesting. You could have a competitor who's also a partner. It's like a hybrid.
Oh yes, yeah. But I think we need to make sure that there's a clear model where collaborate where collaboration is an advantage, but compete where competition is an advantage. At the end, you don't want Riyadh Air and Saudi, and I think that is a red line that no one will even think about. Let's discuss pricing. Let's discuss loyalty program. You don't do this, I don't do that, because
Antitrust.
that's antitrust, and that's not good for the market or for the customer. At the end, we want to make sure. Remember, all of what is happening, and this is the beauty of the age that we are living in, is that everyone has responsibilities, everyone has KPIs, but there are kind of aggregated KPIs at the end that the country wants to achieve. We had 100 million passengers coming in and out of Saudi Arabia in 2019. We want that number to be 330 million, so more than triple by 2030.
Are we somewhere in the middle today?
No, we're back better than 100. Okay, so let's remember 2019 is our baseline year because that was pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID.
Okay, so then COVID came. Everybody thought that recovery would take up to end of 24. Actually, by end of 24, we're much better than. So we recovered. We more than recovered. So I think we're in 120 maybe, closing this past year. And let's remember, this is still without Riyadh Air. Without all the big investments that Saudi has been making in purchasing new aircrafts, FlyNAS, Flyadil, etc. But I think we're in good shape to reach the 330, inshallah.
Perfectly into my next point. I was very lucky to be invited by you and Saudia to go to Hamburg, where I got an opportunity to visit Airbus, a place I never thought in my life I would go to. And we purchased, I think, 100 planes, 50 for Flyadil, 50 for Saudia.
105.
105. Yes. Sorry, that extra 5. Wow. Those 5 planes would be a news for another airline, you know. MashaAllah, 105 aircrafts at Airbus. And the way they celebrated us when we were there, it was such an amazing experience, honestly. It was so unique. Question, any particular reason why the strategy was to go narrow body at a time when you feel the big carriers of the world tend to lean more towards wide body aircraft? What's the psychology behind that?
Well, I don't think there's a trend per se for certain airlines to go wide body or narrow body. Saudi has, I don't think there's a change in the overall strategy and direction of having both narrow bodies and wide bodies. Yes, we ordered 105, and that's our biggest historic order. Let's remember that's Saudi and Flyadil together, so that's that puts things into perspective. But for Saudi, 54 narrow bodies. But a few months before that, we ordered 49 Dreamliners, which are wide bodies. So there is still kind of a healthy mix between wide body and narrow body. The expansion strategy of Saudi has a lot of emphasis on regional and let's say shorter long-haul flights. So things in Europe, things in the subcontinent, which are becoming more commercially viable through advancements in narrow body. So, for example, 15 of the new planes that we will be getting from Airbus are what are called the A321 XLRs, extra long range. So it's a narrow body, a bit longer, so has more seats, but could also go to destinations within, let's say, 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, maybe. That's a great technological development that makes traveling to certain destinations less commercially challenging. Because remember, if I want to have a direct flight from, I don't know, from Paris to the Red Sea, uh, if I use a wide body today because that's the only available option for a plane to be able to fly from Paris to the Red Sea, then I have to fill up a plane of 350 passengers.
Got it.
If I got a plane that can do that for 200 passengers, it just becomes much more commercially viable. So that's the strategy, I think. Let's remember we did order 39 plus 10 options of the Dreamliner, so that's wide body. Those are all coming between 26 and 2030. We still have a big portion of our current fleet as wide bodies. Some of them are, or most of them are, in better condition than the one we are in right now, which we retired. But we have the 777s, we have the 330s. We're going into a retrofit program where we're going to modernize that fleet, because remember, planes can stay in service for 20 years, 30 years. It's really the interior that needs to be kind of brought up to modernize it. And we're starting next year. We're starting on a massive retrofit program where all our old aircrafts are gonna go into a retrofit where the cabin interior is gonna be completely renovated.
So we'll see the end of the blue seats.
Absolutely. We talked about that.
Comes up a lot.
Oh, it comes up a lot. It's a pain point, but and I think we were late, but it was supposed to happen. COVID, a lot of it's a very very difficult industry, and that went through a very difficult time. Let's remember, COVID was a very serious challenge on the aviation industry from all aspects, operational, supply chain, etc. But now we have a very solid plan of new aircrafts coming in, old aircrafts being retrofitted. I think you'll see the end of the blue seats, hopefully end of 27.
Be music to many people's ears.
Yes.
جديد. اكسر الروتين مع أطباقنا الجديدة من بيتزا هات جدة. بيتزا هات جدة، ذوق طعم الثقة معنا.
To your point on the aviation sector taking a hit during COVID, I was at APSCO for 13 years. And as you know, APSCO fuels Saudi Airlines. So I know how much of a hit we took, because if planes aren't flying, what are we going to refuel?
Yes.
I think that, along with the hotel, even the hotel business, I would make an argument that it didn't take a hit as the aviation sector did, because you can go on tourism using your car. You can go by boat. The aviation sector took a massive hit. I wouldn't be surprised if it put some airlines out of business in COVID.
You know, I have a friend who owns a hotel here in Riyadh. Just speaking of hotels, and he told me that during COVID, he reached a level where he used to cry at night.
Oh God!
Okay, of how bad the situation, and the hotel for him is like his main source of livelihood.
Yeah.
And he said, and one night I was crying and praying for God to kind of help me out. And he said the next day, Ministry of Health calls him and says, your hotel has been part of a selection exercise that we did for quarantine venues, and we want to rent it out from you for a year.
That's God's work.
And yes, so amazing. Yeah, you never know what happens. But sometimes at the deepest crisis, you get the biggest opportunity of your life. And
there you go. Some hotels got bailed out. Airlines didn't. Planes were grounded for the longest time.
you know, in Saudia, and I always talk about this in our meetings. I think that in 2021, when we were developing our strategy, so the national aviation strategy came out, and we were asked to see how are we going to deliver on the national ambitions, and what do we need to do to transform Saudi financially, commercially, operationally, etc. And I remember we had a lot of time dedicated amongst us as the management team to work on that strategy, and now that I think about it, because that was during COVID and we had very limited operations, we had a lot more time to think about the strategy, to put the plans together, to put the initiatives, to do the analysis, and I think that was a blessing. I think the blessing of time that we had back then, that we would sit in meeting rooms for 8 hours debating something. In today's world, I cannot get 2 hours out of my day to discuss you see, so sometimes, difficult situations also open up opportunities, and you just need to trust that what's meant to be is meant to be.
Definitely, Khaled. Good things happen when you slow down.
Yeah.
You get to see more things. So with 50 of the narrow bodies and change, 30 and the bigger ones, 787 Dreamliners and change coming online in the next few years, can we expect a complete overhaul in new routes? Probably a question you get a lot. Can we get new routes maybe to the Far East, Tokyo? When I was younger, if I wasn't mistaken, there were direct flights to Orlando, amongst other destinations. Can we expect an increase in the new routes that Saudi?
Absolutely, and I think the numbers again, the targets that we have are driving. So it's actually not because we have new aircrafts we will have new destinations. It's because we need to go to new destinations that we ordered this many aircraft. So it's actually the core objective that we want to achieve. So Saudia today flies to we say 100 destinations, but let's remember about 27, 28 of them are the domestic destinations. But we want to. I think by 2030 we would probably be looking at doubling our international destinations,
which is around 70 today.
So reaching 140, 145. I think the target is 145. Let's remember we also have Fly a Deal, which can increase in destinations. Saudi Arabia, in the national aviation strategy, wants to reach 250 destinations to be connected directly with the kingdom. So that's on that's on us, Riyadh Air, Fly a Deal, Fly Nas, and I think we can achieve it. If we have planes, there's nothing that's going to stop us.
No. Timing is everything. As the country's opening up, yes, you want to offer options for Saudis to go abroad. But at the same time, we touched on Expo, we touched on World Cup, and many, many other things in between those two and even before, that we want people from other countries to now come to Saudi because, as you know, we have the attention of the world right now. I remember a time when I'd be in the States 10, 15 years ago. Where are you from? Jeddah. Where? Saudi Arabia. Any cities there? Yeah. Riyadh. Do you know Riyadh? No, we don't. We know Dubai. Now, I don't think people are going to say what's Riyadh or what's Jeddah. Nothing breaks my heart more than hearing people coming to Saudi and having to connect in the Gulf, as I'm sure it breaks your heart.
Yes.
So having something like 250 destinations connected to Saudi Arabia is a whole new frontier for us.
Absolutely. And you touched upon something that is worth highlighting. The biggest change in Saudia, forget about the rebranding, the new aircrafts, the new app, the digital transformation, the biggest fundamental change in Saudi Airlines strategically is changing from an airline that was supposed to carry Saudis where they want to go to bringing the world to Saudi Arabia. That is, and that's our mission statement actually. In the new strategy, we decided that our mission is to bring the world to Saudi Arabia, because that is something that we've been doing limited maybe to Hajj and Umrah.
Yes.
We've been doing that since the establishment of the airline. The first kind of flights for Saudi into the kingdom were things like bringing people from Cairo to Jeddah, from and we've been serving that mandate. But today it's a completely different game. You want to bring tourists, you want to bring business people, event visitors, and that's a big shift in how we approach things, even destinations. We were choosing destinations that Saudis wanted to go to or needed to go to. And a perfect example of Saudis needing to go to a destination is Manchester. You would imagine that Saudia, and we've been flying to Manchester, I don't know, maybe for the past at least 10 years, 15 years or so. But you would think that an airline, national carrier of a country, flying to Manchester, but not flying to Copenhagen or to Sydney or to Tokyo or to... And you say, that doesn't make sense. I mean, you have London. Why don't you go to other capitals, to other big cities, to other... But because we had a lot of Saudis who were studying in Manchester. So so commercially, the viability, the feasibility, the national mandate that we had was we wanted to make it easier for Saudis to go where they wanted to go or where they needed to go. Today, it's a completely different different network planning methodology, where we sit down with STA, Saudi Tourism Authority, we sit down with the Ministry of Sports, and we tell them, who are your source markets that you want us to consider in our winter schedule, in our summer schedule, in our... So it's completely different. That's a fundamental change. So yeah.
So there is a lot of liaising with these different entities, STA, Ministry of Sports,
absolutely.
Ministry of Culture maybe as well.
Absolutely. So on network planning, I would say STA is a key stakeholder in the planning and setting the criteria, etc. Because we want to understand where are they putting a lot of effort, because that's music to our ears. If STA comes to us and says, look, next year I'm going to be spending this much money on promoting Saudi Arabia as a tourism destination in Italy, it means that someone is doing demand generation for me. I might as well go and increase my flights or add more destinations from there, etc. So that's very, very important.
What an opportunity it is for the airline to really climb up the ranks with what's happening in Saudi. The efforts that you see Ministry of Sports doing, STA doing, 100 million tourists by... I think we passed 100 million tourists. I'll fact that we did, right?
Yeah. What the new target is 150.
Exactly, that's what it was, yes. What an opportunity it is for the airline to ride that wave in climbing up the ranks of the aviation brands.
Absolutely. Plus, it's a big responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
So today, the need for Saudia to live up to the positioning that it deserves, but needs to continue deserving of being the national carrier, the flag carrier. We're seeing what that means today. When we do something even the smallest things on the flight. Today, the Ministry of Culture comes and asks us, "Why are you serving this but not that authentic food? Why are you doing this, not that?" Because they really feel. Sometimes people get annoyed because they say, I mean, why are they coming and getting getting involved in our business? Uh, I actually think it's a great honor for us if the Ministry of Culture comes and tells us something. It means they care, and it means they really see that we are a major contributor to their mandate and to their efforts. So whenever we do something, we try to with the Ministry of Culture, we actually created a platform, a program that we work with them on, called the Five Senses. And the Five Senses is all about coming up with initiatives, ideas that we work and we develop collaboratively with them on making sure that people feel the authentic Saudi experience across the five senses. So, for example, we changed our scent in the aircraft and in the lounges, which used to be a very elegant Parisian kind of brand that we used to use. But we worked with a Saudi perfume maker. I don't know what they call them, but they have a very talented young man who created for us what we call now the Saudi scent, and it's extracted from the lemongrass of Al Ula. How amazing is that?
Beautiful.
When someone would come on board and say, "Oh, that's a nice smell. What's that?" And he asks our cabin crew, and they tell them, "Oh, this is the lemongrass of Al Ula." That immediately is a campaign for Saudi culture like no other. When you go on any flight now, we make sure that one of the choices is always called the Saudia Sufra, a Sufra Saudia. It has to be one of the choices on any flight on Saudia, has to be an authentic Saudi dish that is vetted, confirmed by the Culinary Arts Commission and at the Ministry of Culture. In what we hear and the content that we provide, so we wanna bring all of these to life in a way where people would feel that they've arrived Saudi Arabia when they board the Saudi flight at their home country, not only, and vice versa. Saudis love it, and that was actually I want to go back to the rebranding, because when we were rebranding, and as I talked to you about the change in mission that we are now bringing the world to Saudi Arabia, not taking Saudis to the world. One of the key fundamental questions that we were forced to answer was, okay, so if we want to bring the world to Saudi Arabia, not only take Saudis to the world, what implications would that have on our food product experience? Because before, you were catering to a predominantly local domestic audience. Now you want and we struggled, and we said, okay, what are we going to have? More variety in our menus, so that when we bring in the Europeans, the Americans, the Asians, they find food that they are familiar with, and we actually discovered that the majority of those who want to come to Saudi Arabia for tourism would prefer that their experience in flight would also be Saudi. So we found that there's no contradiction between being authentic and appealing to both your local audience and your global audience. Our global audience want to feel that they have arrived Saudi Arabia and started their authentic Saudi experience the minute they board the plane. And the Saudis, one of the comments that I heard a million times maybe in the past 4 years is people telling me, when I am abroad and I come to the Saudi account, when I see the Saudi logo or I see the Saudi plane out of the window from the airport, I feel home.
Yeah.
Okay? So they want that. So that authenticity is something that we hold dearly to our heart, and I think it's our biggest honor, our biggest opportunity, and our biggest responsibility.
100%. And I just have to tip my hat and say what you and the team have done to capitalize on what you mentioned, the five senses, making people feel that they're in Saudi before they arrived, whether they're locals or internationals. For me, I'll be honest with you, if I'm in London or New York and it's time to come back home, I get weak in the knees when I smell the coffee.
Mm.
I feel like I'm back home. But something that I want to point out to you is that you are responsible for being the first time people smell the Saudi coffee or have a date in their lives.
Yes.
That probably happens on a weekly basis. Like Americans that come to Saudi for the first time, maybe they've never had a date. They'll have it on the
Absolutely.
airplane.
Absolutely.
They've definitely never had Saudi coffee. They didn't have a date. They're not going to have Saudi coffee. They'll smell it and try it for the first time. Yesterday, I met a British gentleman who I had dinner with in Jeddah. How was your flight? He came to Saudi for a week. How was your flight? It was great. The coffee that I was served, I swear to God, the coffee that I was served, it was phenomenal. It was great. I had it. I enjoyed it. It was great. And I managed to sleep right after it. So it's really part of the experience.
It is, but it's a big responsibility, and with big responsibilities comes the kind of the difficulty of managing all stakeholders who you cannot imagine the calls, the comments we get from people wanting to perfect it even more. No, your coffee could still be better if you do this or that. Moms, grandmothers, people calling us and saying, no, why don't you do this? When I put this in the coffee, it tastes better. Why don't you do it? One of the issues that drove me crazy last year, I get a call from someone, and he says, Khaled, you're ruining Saudi culture. And I was like, okay, what happened? And he was talking about which comes first. Do you serve dates and then you serve coffee, or do you serve the coffee and then you serve the dates? And he was very aggressive in telling me what you guys. So today, if you remember, we serve dates and then we serve you the coffee. I think it makes sense, because you would take the date, you would unwrap it, eat it, so then you can take the coffee. But he was saying this is wrong.
That was wrong.
He said for him, okay,
Coffee
from
first.
coffee first and then date. So I got worried, okay, honestly, that maybe this is a big thing. I'm not sure. So we start asking around, etc. And then I find people who ask like legitimate sources, their grandmother, their grandfather, and they say, no, for us it's dates and then coffee. So you're doing it right. And so we eventually ended up consulting one of the most highest ranking protocol people in Saudi Arabia, and he told us, true, it is different.
Subject to region.
Yeah, so regions, etc. There is no kind of right or wrong on this. So if you want to ask me, if you have a justification of practicality that you serve, it's okay, continue doing. But it's those kinds of, but that took us a week to kind of consult and do, and whose opinion is this and whose opinion is that, but it's something we need to live up to if we're saying that we are the representation of Saudi Arabia, then we need to live up to that. Just like when we say there's an internal motto that we used when we launched the new strategy in 2021. We felt that we needed to give our employees a higher sense of purpose. You're not just working for an airline or for an aviation group. And what better purpose to give Saudis, especially young Saudis these days, than to link and associate what they're doing with Vision 2030.
Mm-hmm.
So we came up with the line of, we are the wings of Vision 2030. And that changed the mindset of people. I get young people who come to me and say that actually changed their entire perception on what they're doing, how they do it, etc. And that's something we need to live up to as an airline when there is something that happens in the country that requires the airline to step up and do something about it, then we have to do that. One of the great stories that recently happened of how we are kind of supporting Vision 2030 and what's happening, and we are the wings of Vision 2030, is December 11th when the big announcement of FIFA awarding us the right to host the World Cup in 2034. We actually made sure that we announce it in the flights. So we made a dispatch message on the system, and we asked the pilots to take pictures of it, and that went viral on social media.
I saw it on TikTok.
And the pilots would proudly announce, middle of the flight, ladies and gentlemen, I have great news. Saudi Arabia is hosting the World Cup.
Yeah. Special.
Those moments are very special, and that's where just one aspect of how you can really be the national carrier.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big responsibility that we need to live up to.
I thought Jeddah Riyadh was the busiest route on earth. It feels like there's 10 flights an hour. I'm never like, I come to Riyadh and I never book my return because I know it's like a bus. After doing some due diligence, I found out it was the 6th most popular domestic route. Is that a stressful route for the airline to put a flight every hour? How many? I mean, it's over 20 flights a day between 1,000.
For Saudi, 22.
22 a day. It's 1,000 kilometers
44 if you go
with a deal.
No. 44 if you so when we say flights, Jeddah Riyadh is a flight, Riyadh Jeddah is a flight.
Oh.
So, but return flight, 22.
Is that a route that stresses the airline, or is it a moneymaker, or is it a challenge? I'm just curious. Number 6, globally, how does the airline look at that specific sector?
All of the above. Is it stressful? Yes, of course. Is it challenging? Yes, of course. Is it one of our biggest kind of commercial drivers? Yes, of course. But it's something very, very important, and we look at it in a very serious way. So it is. I think that Jeddah Riyadh or Riyadh Jeddah is one of the backbones of our economy,
As an airline?
of the country's economy. I mean, how many people do you know who today commute between Riyadh and Jeddah?
Many.
And how different is it versus 5 years ago? It's very different today. So the amount of flights is increasing. I tell you, I think pre-COVID we probably had less than 20, probably 16, 17 maybe a day. Today, as I said, we have 22. There's Fly Adil, there's Fly Nas, and most of them are full, and you cannot get a seat unless you book early. It's something that is moving the economy. Very important route for Saudi, for the country. We take it seriously. It's one of the routes where our service level inside the flight is also at par with most of our international flights. So the meals that we serve, the service itself is one of our most important flights. Whenever we have special celebrations, occasions, content that is important to make people aware of something. Sometimes government entities or for that matter, we started selling advertising on our screens to the private sector as well. Jeddah Riyadh is the place. If you want people in Saudi Arabia to know about something, put it on the screens of Jeddah Riyadh flight for a week. The whole country will know.
It's a billboard.
Yes, so it's an important route for us, and I think there is still some room to increase flights that I think we will see in the next couple of years. Riyadh Air might fly Riyadh Jeddah as well, so that's gonna be interesting.
I think what's one of the reasons why there's so much pressure on the airline is because driving it is very long. I've ended up driving because planes were full. Testament to, even though there's 22 planes a day, I couldn't get a seat on one. It's 9 hours anyway. You look at it. No boats available, no trains, so it puts a lot of pressure.
Absolutely,
could be good or bad on the aviation sector.
Absolutely, and I think the uniqueness of Saudi Arabia's aviation ecosystem, a large part of it is how much of it is being used domestically. So sometimes when we are compared in any way to Emirates or Qatar Airways, I feel partially some of those comparisons are not fair, because I have a very large domestic operation that they don't have. They only fly. Imagine the life of and this was actually one of my colleagues, a pilot, was telling me that he was comparing his life to a pilot in Emirates or Qatar. Our pilot would get out of bed, go to work, get on a plane that goes from Jeddah to Riyadh, but then fly from Riyadh to Tabuk, then maybe from Tabuk to Dammam. So his day...
In one day?
Yeah, because...
sorry,
1 hour,
excuse
2
my
hours,
ignorance, but he'd take 2 or 3 flights a day?
Yeah. And sometimes the same plane. So the plane that takes you from Jeddah to Riyadh might stay for a few hours and then take other passengers to Tabuk from Riyadh, and then so that's common. A pilot in Emirates would wake up, take a flight to Sydney, lay over there, then a couple of days later he would come back to Dubai. Huge difference in life. This pilot takes off and lands 3 times a day. That pilot takes off and lands once every 2 days. Okay, so it's a huge it's a huge difference in the life of and in the types of airplane. Why do you have narrow bodies? Because we have 27 domestic airports that, guess what? Most of them, it's much more convenient, much more commercially viable, does the job with a narrow body.
And it becomes an occupancy percentage game.
Yes.
Closest to 100, let's fill up the plane. And that makes a lot of sense, going back to why did we buy 50 odd narrows from Airbus.
Yes.
So you can economically make those routes viable.
Yes. And if technology is allowing it, why not? You have a lot of it would increase your destinations. It would increase your frequencies. Improve on your commercials. Prices would be more affordable, etc. So it's a win-win for everyone. And I would subscribe to the argument of wide body versus narrow body if the experience on a narrow body is at a disadvantage. But if we design the seats and the amenities, etc., in a way, because I think a lot of people's perceptions about narrow body today are driven by the fact that their only experience on a narrow body was mostly with low-cost airlines,
Yeah.
where the seats are smaller. But that's not what you will find on Saudia. In our new narrow bodies, some of our business classes will have suites. Yeah? We're gonna have the same seats and economy as we do in the wide body. So you're not gonna suffer in terms of experience from going on a narrow body versus a wide body.
I went on the new narrow body. I didn't know wireless charging was an option on planes. That got me,
Yeah.
which was a really, really beautiful thing to see.
Wait for the internet.
Yeah, I heard investments are happening in that area.
Oh yes, and
Yeah.
we started. We started installing some of our aircrafts. We're testing. Yesterday, I did a test with one of our colleagues who was on a flight testing the new internet. We were FaceTiming, and it was better than FaceTiming someone in Riyadh, maybe.
Oh my goodness.
The level of clarity, and I am super excited about this, because
That's-
this is a game changer.
Yeah, I was just going to say game changer,
Yeah,
because
this
it was
is
a
a
pain
game
point for many customers.
Yes, this is going to be a game changer, and hopefully over the next 12 months there will be a lot of progress. Probably 2 years, 3 years, we're going to see this everywhere.
Beautiful. We see a lot of airlines in the sponsorship game on the front shirt of various teams. Is that something we can see Saudia taking part of? Like, for example, with all my love and respect for Silla, who are on the jersey of Newcastle, would Saudia find their way on that jersey or another team? Is that something in your plans?
Why not? Why not? I would say for the let's say the shirt sponsorship, in my opinion, is a class of marketing investment that is being challenged today. Okay? There are conventional ways of building your brand awareness and brand affinity, and there are new ways that are coming up. 20 years ago, one of the fastest ways to build global awareness was to go and put your name on a shirt of a major football club primarily. Probably second was motorsports, so on a Formula One team, NBA and the likes. You had some regional kind of superheroes like NFL, NBA in the US, cricket in India and Asia, and I think it's still a possibility for our let's say marketing objectives and strategies. We did not see the need for that in the past few years, but it might be a priority or a possibility in the coming period. What I can say is, in the next 5 years, probably the mix or split of our marketing budgets domestically versus globally will see a lot of shift to global marketing. And that is something that then will require us to answer the question: if I'm going global, what are the best platforms for me to build my brand awareness, but also differentiate in in a meaningful way.
You see, on the subject of local marketing investments, uh, do you see a shift in how marketing functions or investments are unfolding? Are there campaigns out there that you're like, wow, that's, the marketing game has really improved in the last X amount of years? Me as an ex-marketeer, I've seen it, but you, with obviously a lot more experience than I had, does the landscape impress you now more than ever?
I have a very clear opinion on that, and I think a lot of people don't like uh, this kind of frankness and describing the situation. But I really believe that the marketing industry has taken um, a backseat, and PR and communication lead in Saudi Arabia today. And while that is important because PR and communication historically in Saudi Arabia was not even backseat, it was probably in the trunk in terms of deep communication, creating narratives and key messages and allowing the public to understand an organization, be it public or private, in a better way, and interviewing executives and owners and ministers and government officials, etc. You look back, not even to far back in history, but look back 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and in a year, how many ministers, how many deputy ministers, how many CEOs in Saudi Arabia of major corporations that impact people's lives on a daily basis were out in the public explaining what they're doing, what their strategy is, what are the pain points, addressing people's comments, and maybe they were a handful, okay, in a year. Today, in a week, you might have 5 ministers on podcasts and interviews, and local and international, and CEOs of all the major PIF companies and giga projects and government programs and private sector. So PR and communication is thriving today in Saudi Arabia.
Huge. Is that thanks to social media?
Um, One, I think as a channel, yes, social media helped a lot, but I think in the DNA of um, uh, doing business in Saudi Arabia, uh, communication or corporate communication, be it on the government side or on the private sector side, has become part of the DNA of an organization. Everyone realizes the importance of coming out in the public, having clear messages that explain where we are, what we're doing, who we are, why are we changing this to this, what promises are we giving to the public, what solutions to their problems, etc. So it's becoming part of our DNA. My worry is that as that is happening, it was not done incremental to what I believe was a much more thriving marketing, brand building scene in Saudi Arabia in the late 90s, early 2000s. It PR and communication did not come on top of that. It became instead of that. and and I really believe that we are witnessing a serious era where we might regret the opportunities that marketing could have helped us nurture and capitalize on and leverage on and benefit from. A few years later, we will say we wish we gave marketing more attention and more effort in those years. So a lot of companies today in Saudi Arabia, I believe, are content with PR and communication. So if my CEO goes on a podcast with Mo, that is enough, and I don't need a marketing campaign for my product. And I don't think that is healthy. And I think that we will regret the marketing scene in Saudi Arabia. I think is at one of its lowest kind of levels. It has been I've been working in marketing for 25 years now. I don't like what I'm seeing right now.
You're concerned.
I'm very concerned.
They need to coexist, not replace.
I think they should coexist, and that what we are doing. I'll give you an example, and we were having this discussion last week with a group of marketeers and some academics, and the discussion was around the marketing implications of Saudi Arabia hosting the World Cup in 2034. And my opinion on that is that I know that there's a lot of national pride and discussion about changing the narrative about Saudi Arabia in the global audiences' perceptions and minds, and all of that is important. I do not want to downplay the great opportunity. This is probably our greatest opportunity in history to do the things, solve the issues, grab the opportunities that we have been talking about forever. I do not want to downplay that and underestimate that. But I'm saying equally important, if not more important in my mind, is we're going to host the World Cup. I want to make sure that we start thinking from now, and I don't see anyone talking about it, what are we going to sell the world? This is our greatest opportunity to sell things to the world. What are we going to sell to the world? Services, products, those who are coming to Saudi Arabia. So if we expect that in 2034, anywhere between 3 to 4 million people from outside the country are going to come here, are gonna visit. I do domestic tourism. I this year I'm proud that I've spent most of my vacations inside Saudi Arabia. I've been to Abha, I went in the summer, I've been to Al Ula, I've been to Red Sea, I've been to Riyadh, Season, Dir'iyah, etc. I make sure that any new resort or hotel I go and try it for myself, etc. My wife accompanies me in most of these trips, or I accompany my wife in most of these trips, and she loves to collect fridge magnets from everywhere we go. We did not find fridge magnets in the Red Sea, nor in Al Ula, nor in Dir'iyah, nor in Abha. Simple things. Imagine, so we're going to host the world in 2034.
Even in Al Ula? I say even because it's maybe the most matured market for tourism.
I don't remember we saw something that was designed for Al Ula.
Well, I hope they're
maybe
listening.
I'm wrong. Maybe there is, but it's not widespread. I mean, if you're in,
it needs to
if
be
you're
there.
in Barcelona,
yeah, it's there. It's everywhere.
It's in your face everywhere. In the airport, in the restaurant, in the hotel, so it's everywhere.
I will catch it.
Yes. So that kind of and I mean, just extend that to everything that we could start promote it. So I was saying that as marketeers, we need to think now as marketeers, not as communication people, not as PR people. That is important. We want to do that. We want to change the narrative. We want to create the stories. We want to change the perception, etc. But we also need to think as marketeers. If I am pretty sure that if Japan wins hosting the World Cup, they're gonna think in a different way. They're gonna think about the commercial marketing opportunities. They're gonna think about the services. They're gonna think about the. So I'm saying this is just one example of how communication and PR kind of overshadows, and then we forget about marketing. I know a lot of companies in Saudi Arabia that today their management, their boards would only think about what is coming out in PR, interviews, social media, kind of discussions, etc. The brand building, the marketing is kind of fading away, and I'm very concerned about that.
I hear you. Well, the good news is that we have 10 years to put those plans in place. You're right, because we're going to have millions of people between Expo and the World Cup coming for the first time. And as you know, you only have one chance at making a first impression.
Yes.
And that first impression needs to be, and I'm confident that it will be, as I'm sure you are, nothing short of sensational, where it hits on your senses, where if we have an infrastructural issue, it needs to be looked in. I know a lot of people are asking for the country to be accessible by trains. Jeddah, Mecca, Medina, we need more high-speed rails as we have in Western Saudi Arabia to be interconnected. Whatever can be improved, and actually that's something that I'm seeing a lot of now. Whatever can be improved is looked into.
Yes, and it's I'm very optimistic, like you are. I actually think about it compared to today. Today, the vast majority of people who come to Saudi Arabia for the first time are actually impressed.
They love it.
Yeah, and because and it's sometimes a blessing that you start from very low expectations.
That's what I was going to say, because they come with low expectations.
Yeah, it's not fair.
Yeah.
Okay. It's really unfair. I was hosting the CEO of one of the fastest growing digital platforms in the world, without naming, but we were meeting in Riyadh. Okay. And this was a few years ago, 3-4 years ago. And the guy was coming to Saudi Arabia for the first time. I didn't know him personally before, but we had one virtual meeting before his visit to Riyadh, and he was telling me that he grew up in LA, where for I think the first 10 years of his life, their neighbors were a Saudi family. So he's like, I know you guys. I was raised with Saudi. The Saudi boy next door was technically my brother. Okay, so I know you guys. I know Saudis. I know, and Saudis are big investors in his company today. But he arrived to Riyadh late night. We were meeting at I think 10 a.m. the next morning. So he arrived late. He went to the hotel, the Four Seasons in Riyadh, and I had the driver pick him up and bring him to where we were meeting. And he came in to the meeting, and he said, before we start, I have to confess. I am ashamed of how ignorant and uneducated I was about Saudi Arabia. Because I have to say, when I arrived to the airport, I was like, wow, this is Saudi Arabia's airport. And he was like, I'm very sorry. I did not know that. I did not expect this out of Saudi Arabia. So he came with very low expectation. To an extent, that hurts. Okay? for you to find someone who is doing business with Saudi Arabia, who he was raised with a Saudi family next door, and to have that kind of perception in 2023 or 2022 about my country, that hurts.
Yeah, you can thank Western mainstream media for that.
But yes and no, really, Muhammad. I think it was also that we did not tell our story. But we don't need to. What I hate is whenever we have these discussions and people start blaming the Saudi media, blaming the brands and the people of Saudi Arabia. Oh, where were you for the past 20? Our people. If our fathers, if our grandfathers did this, and we would have been in a better place. Let's stop the blame game. Okay, we have a fresh opportunity. We are opening up to the world. Not that we need validation. We're opening up to the world because we believe that's the right thing to do. We believe there's a benefit for us, and we believe that there is a benefit for the world from being part of the Saudi transformation. As His Royal Highness the Crown Prince says, Saudi Arabia is the success story, the greatest success story of the 21st century. If you want to be part of it or you want to leave, that's up to you. We don't need to be very apologetic, and we don't need to be very pushy and in terms of pushing out narrative. And what I hate these days in terms of practices is when we see Saudi organizations going and doing paid advertorial in global media. I don't like that.
Comes forced, huh?
Yeah. And it just reinforces something that the West thinks of us, which is people with money who can do what they want. So if you have money, you can go and buy pages on Bloomberg and pages on Wall Street Journal and New York Times. I don't think that's the right thing to do. Maybe there is a justification again for that, but I love what Riyadh Season is doing. They're going and doing marketing. When I go and do campaigns and creative campaigns, have you seen their video ads for
Best in class.
for the
best.
tennis, for the for the boxing, for the WWE, that's amazing. That's brand building. That's marketing. That's not what everybody else is doing, and I have a problem with that.
I hear you on that. As a marketeer, I hear you, because those kinds of clips, which are epic, nothing short of a Hollywood blockbuster trailer, circulates and resonates way more than anything else we put out there as paid media. And it comes off in a softer way,
Yes.
and really, at the end of the day, it transcends to soft power.
Mm-hmm.
This is coming out of Saudi, but I will not concede that what Western media has done to us, especially after 9/11, labeling us as X, ما قصروا. They went at it, just how they did with Qatar for the World Cup. They didn't want them to host it, as they did with the many articles leading up to December 11th and after it on how they didn't want Saudi to host the World Cup. There is a case of we want you all to remain here while we are here. The opening of the World Cup in Qatar 2022, BBC did not air the opening for the first time in history.
Yes.
Coincidence?
But guess what? The great news, they're not nearly as powerful as they used to be.
As they used to be, yeah.
And today's global audiences are much more aware of the agendas and the politics behind things, and they are much more capable of finding the true narrative that convinces them. So that's great news in itself, and that's our greatest opportunity today, of using that opportunity of us being able to tell our stories without the need to go and it's like doing business with the devil. So don't go to those who were the reason why you are in this place right now, and pay them to fix the issue. A very uh, kind of controversial area topic of discussion, but I think I wanna make sure that the main message is, I think we can do much more in marketing. I am concerned about where marketing is right now as an industry in Saudi Arabia, and I think the key solution to that is for organizations at the government level, at the private sector level, to rethink that it's not only about PR and communication. It's not only about you going out on an interview and laying out your strategies, your solutions. It's not only about having an active account on X or it's and we have great examples. Look at Riyadh season I think is a great example of marketing. I would argue that Saudi is also a great example of marketing, but
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
but I think we can do much more in marketing.
It's a good attitude to have.
Yes,
We can always get better. Two more questions, and then we'll wrap up. I kept you for way longer than maybe I should have.
I'm enjoying it. Well,
Thank you. Me too. Likewise. Likewise. First question is, what's something that you found yourself repeatedly doing on a personal level that is perhaps responsible for where you are in life today? Is there a habit? I'm addressing this question to the younger audience who can maybe take something from how you operated. It could be a daily habit or not, but to help them in reaching where you have the heights that you have today. Is there a habit that you or a way of operation that you kept practicing throughout the years?
Philosophical, but one of the things that as I reflect, and I'm doing a lot of reflection these days. But I don't know if that's a sign of me getting older, or but I've been contemplating on kind of finding a way where I can pass on knowledge, but without. I'm not the kind of person who would write a book, or so I'm trying to find ways to kind of pass on that. I'm actually considering right now that maybe one good segue to retirement for me would be to find a way to teach something. Okay, so I would love to maybe open invitation to the colleges in Saudi Arabia if you want me to come and teach marketing or so. But I think one thing that has been popping up in my mind as one of the things that I think helped me reach where I am today and do a lot of things that I'm very proud of doing is bring yourself to work. Personality, I think, in the fields of, and I cannot speak on any kind of job, but I think in marketing, it is very important that the marketing strategy and the brand strategy of the place that you are working in is highly influenced by your personality.
Yes.
And that is an important driver of success. When you go to a place, don't feel that you need to adapt to the place, but find ways where the place can adapt to you as a marketeer. I think that's something that in every career opportunity I had, I felt that made a difference in something that I was doing. So So bring yourself to work and make sure that um, your workplace adapts to you as much as you adapt to the workplace. That's one. Um, Number two, and this is even more true than ever, but I had that kind of a blessing of a mindset since my childhood. Uh, I was raised in the U.S. and we came back to Saudi, and I found myself for the majority of my life naturally inclined towards comparing with the intent of why can't we be like this. So comparing my school when I came back to Riyadh versus my school when I was in the US. Our The way we played soccer in the US and the way we played soccer in Saudi. So I found myself always kind of with that. So in as I started working, uh, a lot of I think a lot of the most successful projects, initiatives, ideas that I was contributing were pushing the envelope, not on incremental improvements. It's not like, okay, I'm working on this water brand. How can I make it better? No, it's like, no, but there's something there that is 100 times better. Why can't I be like that? So that kind of ambition
Yeah.
has always been part of my characteristic, and there's no better time to exercise that than today, where the government is asking you. I love one of the best uh, quotes that I always remember is actually from your podcast with Prince Abdulaziz, a great guy. I had the pleasure of working with him on several occasions, and uh, but when he said when
I know what you're gonna say.
yeah
I know what you're gonna say.
when he was called in
Mm-hmm.
to take on the position of
Whatever you
the Minister
dreamt
of
of.
Sport, and he said, "What are your expectations?" And the prince said, "Whatever you dreamed of, go make
Go
it
and
happen."
do it. Yeah.
That is so true on so many levels. Not because he's a minister, not because he's a prince. Okay, I can bet you that a lot of Saudi young boys and girls today in their workplaces can make their dreams come true. It is just an incredible time for us to be Saudis. I remember last year we graduated, we celebrated the graduation of our first cohort of Saudi in-flight chefs. The idea itself is amazing, in-flight chef, and I think we're one of 5 or 6 airlines in the world who have a chef on board, and I remember as we were celebrating, etc., I saw the team interviewing a lady who seemed like a mother of one of the graduates, um, and I saw her kind of in tears, and so I said that must be emotional. So I just went closer to, and I found the story to be so amazing. Uh, she was saying she's from Medina. Uh, Her eldest son, 2 years ago, he was in high school. He was about to graduate from high school. And as with any family, the father and mother are bringing the son, and okay, you're graduating from high school now. What do you want to be? And he's in Medina, so not a lot of opportunities. But he said, uh, I really want to be a cabin crew in Saudi Airlines. I want to fly, I want to go travel the world, etc. So I'm gonna find a way to apply to Saudi as a cabin crew. If not, if that doesn't work out, I probably want to be a chef and find a place in Medina, or hotel or restaurant that I can be a chef, because he loves cooking. Okay, And his mom said, she was telling us that night she prayed that God would give her son one of his two wishes. And that Saudia actually made it true that he got both of his wishes in one. Imagine.
SubhanAllah.
Now that's an individual story, but that is a perfect representation of the age that we are living in Saudi Arabia.
He was a chef on the airline.
Yes, he became an in-flight chef. And the mom was crying, and it was so emotional. I get
gonna
in
cry.
tears whenever
touching.
I hear that story. She was like, I was praying, أنا كنت بأدعي في الليل إنه ربنا that God would grant my son one of these two wishes. He gave us both. That he became a cabin crew who's a chef. So he's a chef and a cabin crew. So he travels the world and he cooks for people.
He had his cake and he ate it.
Yes, and that is a story that I think
That's the story.
symbolizes the age that we are. Because I think it's one story, but I think there are thousands, millions of stories in Saudi Arabia today about people who never dreamed of what they would be today. The opportunities that
Endless.
I remember when my eldest daughter Tala, she's 22, 23 now. She graduated from college a couple of years ago. She's now a financial advisor with KPMG.
Inshallah.
Her mother, 25 years ago, when she was in college and did not have the same opportunities, did not have the same kind of life and even the kind of the potential to dream, as today we have kids, inshallah, who whatever they want to do. You want to be an astronaut? Yeah, it's very possible. So yeah, it's an incredible time that we're living. Think big. Think about some of the best things that you would love to see in your country, and believe me, you can find ways where you can contribute to making that happen. So that would be my advice to the younger people in the
I love it.
audience.
I love it. What gets me the most, speaking of opportunities, is the Women's Football League.
Mhm.
We actually have that today that's 3 years old.
Yes,
It's a beautiful thing to see.
absolutely.
I have a 2-year-old daughter. Maybe one day she wants to play football.
Hmm.
She can do it on home soil today. Those opportunities weren't there
Yeah.
5-10 years ago. Last question.
Yes.
Were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. Simple question, short question. Advice that you're happy that you never listened to.
Mm.
What was some bad advice or something that somebody told you that ended up being that, okay, thank God I didn't listen to that person?
One of my mentors, not by choice but by design, in the organization that I worked with early in my career, as I was transitioning into a managerial role of people reporting to me, for a full year, was pushing me harder and harder to be a more strict manager in style. I was like, you cannot be kind of too friendly and too open and too social with with your subordinates and with the wider team, etc. And at a point, I was about to kind of adopt what he was trying to instill in me, and I thank God I did not. I think today one of the biggest things that bring me joy in my life is that I go to the office and I feel that I have brothers and sisters with me, and that social relationship that uh, is not about hierarchy, which comes in needed in certain situations where decisions need to be made, or problems happen and need to be fixed, etc. But overall, I think that was one advice that I am happy I did not take. Uh, the other one was sticking with the old school choices. So I was raised in a family where uh, I have a an older brother. He's 4 years older than me, and I kept hearing uh, in the family that inshallah one of you will be a doctor, one will be an engineer. Okay. So throughout high school, I was programmed that, and my older brother graduated and went into medical school, so he's gonna be the doctor. Thank God. So I did not have that challenge to. I never imagined myself in that, but then I was programmed that, oh, I'm gonna be an engineer. I'm gonna be an engineer, and I graduated. I went into engineering school. I didn't like it, and I had to go back to my dad. And back then, this was 1993. I had to tell him, look, computers are the future. And I want to study IT instead of engineering. And he was very kind of very understanding, and so I did that. I'm very happy that I studied IT MIS instead of, but then worked in marketing, and that was another big choice that I had to make. I remember when I graduated. Um, I had opportunities to work with Saudi Air back then, with Aramco, with the government, and the choice of going to a multinational was like weird those days. I mean, you have it's like paradise. You have Saudi, you have Aramco, you have uh, so so again throughout my life, I think a lot you will get a lot of advice from people who are older than you.
Yeah.
Time changes, and uh, don't take it for granted. Okay, uh, we have to respect those who are older than us, but when it comes to career choices and life choices, I think take ownership of your life, and don't listen to every piece of advice that you get.
Also, we can tie it into what you said earlier about bring yourself to work.
Yes.
And what I heard from that is do not conform.
Yes.
Do it your way. Lift people up around you. Bring the standards up.
That's actually a great. And if I want to, and as I'm telling you, I'm reflecting a lot on uh, when I hear Frank Sinatra's "I Did It My Way."
Yeah.
What an amazing legacy!
Yeah.
If you can say that on your retirement day, or
Oh yeah.
put that in your mind, if you can do something of value,
صح.
and you do it in a way that is unique to you, خلاص, that is
It's a beautiful thing.
that is the ultimate. So I wish everyone uh, can find what they want to do, why they want to do it, of course, and do it in a way that is unique to them. I I pray that I can achieve that one day, and at the end, for anyone to be able to listen to that song and say, "I did it my way," would be an amazing legacy.
We are signing off on that point.
Thank
you for your time. Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.
Thank you for carrying the airline into this new era, for doing things that we've honestly never seen. I mean, a setting like this is unique
Alhamdulillah.
in so many different ways. And Wallah, Khaled, you are the perfect man for this job. So I appreciate all your insights, personal and professional. And thank you for also being a part of our show. Saudia have supported the show for the past year. So on a personal level, I'm very touched by that kind of support. A company that's, supported my family from the 80s. My dad worked in Saudia from 1980 till 2000. So it's a company that's very much ingrained in my blood and in many of the Saudis' blood as well. So I thank you. I thank the airline, and sorry for keeping you here longer than you might have anticipated.
Abadan. We thank the airline. We thank the great country that we are in. We're living in an amazing time. It's just so great to be a Saudi at this time, even more than any time before. The opportunities. We're just the tools that are bringing this grand vision to life, and I'm thankful to the country, to the airline, and to great people like you
Thank you.
who help us bring this to life.
Thank you. It means a lot.
Thank
Really,
you.
really appreciate those words. Thank you, Khaled. Thank you, everyone.